Look, I need you to picture something for me. You are sitting at your desk, maybe it is late at night, and you are staring at your banking app. You have got $4,000 saved up, maybe $5,000 if you've been really disciplined, and you're thinking to yourself, I am doing everything right. I am saving my money. I'm not buying the stupid daily coffee everyone talks about. I am being responsible. But here's the thing that is eating at you. It feels like nothing is actually changing. You look at that number and sure, it is growing, but it is growing so slowly that you cannot see how this ever turns into actual wealth. You cannot see how this becomes financial freedom. And honestly, you're starting to wonder if this whole saving thing is even worth it. I'm about to show you why that feeling exists, and more importantly, why everything is about to change in a way you probably can't even imagine right now. My name is Ashraf, and I spend way too much time thinking about the exact dollar amounts where your financial life fundamentally transforms. If you're someone who has been saving money, but you're stuck in that frustrating middle ground where you're doing everything right, but nothing feels like it's actually working, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because what I'm about to share with you today is probably going to change how you think about every single dollar you save from this point forward. So let me start by validating something you're probably feeling right now. When you have saved up your first few $1,000s, maybe even $10,000, there's this weird psychological trap that almost nobody talks about. I call it the frustration zone. And here's why it exists. You have been told your entire life that saving money is the key to financial success. Save 10% of your income, build an emergency fund, be responsible. And you've done that. You've actually done the hard part. You've changed your behavior, you have said no to things you wanted, you have been disciplined. But here's what nobody prepared you for. At $5,000 saved or even $10,000 saved, your life does not feel materially different. You still have to go to work every single day, you still stress about unexpected expenses, you still cannot take that dream vacation, you still feel like you are one bad month away from financial disaster. And this creates this really toxic mindset where you start thinking, what is even the point? I've been saving for 2 years and I still feel broke. This is never going to work. Now you might be thinking, Sharif, that's just how it is in the beginning. You've got to put in the time. And look, you're not wrong. But here's what most people don't realize. There's a specific threshold, a specific dollar amount, where the entire game changes. Not gradually, not slowly over time, but suddenly and dramatically. And that number is $20,000. Here's the thing that is going to sound crazy at first, but stick with me because the math is going to blow your mind. The difference between having $10,000 saved and $20,000 saved is not just double. It's not even close to just double. It is exponentially more powerful in ways that completely reshape your financial reality. Let me show you what I mean with actual numbers because this is where it gets really interesting. Let's say you've got $10,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account earning 4.5% interest, which is pretty standard right now in late 2025. That's giving you about $450 per year in interest. Divide that by 12 months, and you're earning roughly $37.50 per month. Now that's better than nothing. I'm not saying it's worthless, but $37 a month is not changing your life. That's maybe one tank of gas. That's maybe one decent dinner out. It's nice, but it's not transformative. But here's where the math gets insane. When you hit $20,000 at that same 4.5% interest rate, you're now earning $900 per year. That's $75 per month. And I know what you're thinking. Sharif, that's just double. You doubled the money, you doubled the interest, obviously. But here's what you're missing. That $75 per month is now covering real expenses in your life. That's your phone bill covered every single month by your savings, or it's your car insurance payment, or it's a significant chunk of your grocery budget. Your money is now working hard enough to cover actual line items in your budget, And this creates a psychological shift that is really hard to describe until you experience it. You stop seeing your savings as just this number that sits there, and you start seeing it as this thing that's actively reducing your cost of living. You start to feel like your money has crossed over from being passive to being active. But we're just getting started, because the interest is actually the least interesting part of what happens at $20,000. Let me show you where this really gets wild. Look, here's something that changed my entire perspective on money, and it's something I never understood until I crossed this threshold myself. When you have less than $10,000 saved, you're still playing defense with your money. What I mean by that is every dollar you have is allocated to protection. That's your emergency fund. That's your buffer against the world going wrong. You can't take risks with that money because you need it to survive if something bad happens. But when you hit $20,000, something really interesting happens to your risk tolerance and your opportunity access. You now have enough money that you can split your savings into two completely different categories. You can keep $10,000 as your emergency fund, your sleep at night money, your do not touch this money, and you've got another $10,000 that can be your opportunity fund, your take calculated risks money. And this is where people who have never had $20,000 saved up always get confused. They think opportunity fund means gambling or crypto or some get-rich-quick scheme. That's not what I'm talking about at all. Let me give you some real examples of what I mean by that. A friend of mine was working in marketing, making about $60,000 a year. She had been saving aggressively and hit $20,000 in savings. About 3 months later, one of her clients mentioned they were looking to hire someone to run their entire digital marketing strategy. The catch was it was a contract position, 6 months guaranteed, but it paid $90,000 annualized, and it had the potential to turn into a permanent role at $110,000. Here's the problem. She would have to quit her stable job to take it. 6 months earlier, when she had $8,000 saved, she couldn't have taken that risk. The fear of what happens if the contract ends and she has no job would have been too overwhelming. But with $20,000, she had enough runway. She took the contract, crushed it, got the permanent offer, and within 18 months, she was making $125,000 in a director-level role. That single decision, which was only possible because she had $20,000 threshold, changed her entire income trajectory. Or here's another one. I know someone who worked in tech support making $55,000 a year. He had been wanting to transition into software development, but he needed to take a 12-week coding boot camp that cost $10,000. When he had $6,000 saved, he couldn't do it. The idea of spending almost double his entire savings on something that might not work out was terrifying. But when he hit $21,000 saved, the math completely changed. He kept $11,000 as his safety net, used $10,000 for the boot camp, and 6 months later, he was making $95,000 as a junior developer. 3 years later, he's making $130,000. Here's what most people don't realize about these stories. These are not exceptional people. These are not people who got lucky or had some special talent. These are people who had access to the same opportunities that exist for everyone. The only difference is they had $20,000, which gave them the financial breathing room to actually take those opportunities when they appeared. Now let me tell you about something even more powerful that happens at $20,000. And this is something that affects literally everyone, whether you're trying to switch careers or not. Your negotiating position in life completely transforms. Here's what I mean by that. When you have less than $5,000 in the bank, you negotiate from a position of desperation. Maybe you don't feel desperate, maybe you think you're hiding it well, but trust me, it shows. When your employer knows, or more likely senses, that you need this job because you couldn't survive 2 months without it, you have zero leverage. When you're trying to negotiate a raise, they know you're not going anywhere. When you're looking at a new job offer, you can't really push back on the salary because you need someone to say yes. Even in your personal life, this shows up everywhere. When your landlord raises your rent, you can't really fight it because moving requires first month, last month, security deposit, and moving costs. That's easily $5,000. If you don't have that sitting around plus a buffer, you're stuck. You take the rent increase. When your car breaks down and the mechanic says it's going to cost $2,000, you can't shop around or negotiate or consider alternatives because you need your car to get to work and you need to get to work to survive. You just say yes. But at $20,000, your entire negotiating posture changes. And I want to be really clear about this. It's not that you suddenly become rich or that you don't care about money. It's that you have enough runway to actually think strategically instead of just surviving. I've seen this play out so many times. People with $20,000 in the bank who get offered a new job and the salary is below what they wanted, they can actually say, I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to need some time to think about it. And they can mean it. They're not bluffing. They genuinely have the financial stability.
All right, now I want to talk about something that sounds really technical, but is actually super simple once you understand it. It is called the velocity of money, and it is the reason why getting to $20,000 happens way faster than getting from $0 to $10,000. Here is how this works. When you are starting from $0 and trying to save your first $10,000, every single dollar you save is purely a function of your behavior. You have to earn money, you have to not spend it, and you have to put it in savings. That is it. There is no momentum, there is no help. It is just you, your willpower, and your budget. And this is why it is so brutally hard. Most people take 3 to 5 years to save their first $10,000 because they are fighting against lifestyle inflation, unexpected expenses, and the psychological difficulty of not seeing results. But here is what happens once you have $10,000 saved. Now you've got compound interest working for you. You've got the psychological momentum of seeing that number grow. You've got improved financial habits that have become automatic. And most importantly, you have usually increased your income during those 3 to 5 years it took you to save the first $10,000. Let me show you what this looks like in real numbers. Let's say it took you 4 years to save your first $10,000. You were earning $45,000 a year, saving about 5% of your income, plus any bonuses or tax refunds. Now, during those 4 years, most people are not stagnant in their careers. You got a promotion or switched jobs or just got cost of living increases. Let's say you are now making $52,000. That's not crazy. That's actually pretty conservative for 4 years of career progression. Now you're saving 5% of $52,000, which is $2,600 per year. But you've also gotten better at finding extra money to save. Maybe you're selling stuff you don't need. Maybe you picked up a side project. Maybe you're just more conscious about your spending. Let's say you find an extra $600 per year to put towards savings. So now you're saving $3,200 per year, plus you're earning about $450 in interest on your $10,000. That's $3,650 per year going toward your savings. At that rate, you're going from $10,000 to $20,000 in 2.7 years. Not 4 years like it took you to get to $10,000. 2.7 years. And here's where it gets even more interesting. As you approach $15,000 saved, your interest earnings are up to about $675 per year. Your income has probably increased again. Your savings rate has probably improved because you have momentum. So that last $5,000 from 15 to 20 often happens in less than 18 months. What took you 4 years to accomplish the first time takes you less than half that time the second time. And this acceleration only gets faster. Getting from $20,000 to $30,000 usually takes about a year and a half. Getting from $30,000 to $40,000 takes about a year. Because you're not just saving anymore. Your money is saving for you. Now, look, everything I've talked about so far has been pretty logical. It's math, it's career opportunities, it's negotiating leverage. But I want to talk about something that's harder to quantify, but honestly might be the most important thing that happens when you hit $20,000. Your entire identity around money changes. When you have less
This
than
is me
$10,000 saved,
compared
even
to
if you're
my
saving
old,
consistently,
stressed self.
even if you're doing everything right, there's still this voice in the back of your head that says, I'm not good with money. Because society defines being good with money as having wealth, not as having good habits. So even though you're being responsible, you still feel broke. You still feel like you're failing. But when you hit $20,000, something clicks. You look at that number and you think, I am someone who has $20,000 in the bank. That's not nothing. That's significant. I did that. And this shift from seeing yourself as someone who is trying to be good with money to seeing yourself as someone who is actually good with money, it's huge. I've talked to probably 100 people who have crossed this threshold, and almost all of them describe the same experience. They stop feeling guilty about their financial situation. They stop comparing themselves to people who inherited money or got lucky. They stop feeling like they're behind because they have evidence that they can build wealth. Not theoretical evidence, actual evidence sitting in their bank account. And this confidence spills over into everything else. People who hit $20,000 saved are more likely to ask for raises because they feel like they're worth it. They're more likely to start side businesses because they believe they can succeed. They're more likely to invest in themselves through education or training because they see themselves as someone who makes good long-term decisions. There's actually research from the University of Michigan that found that people with at least $20,000 in liquid savings report 42% higher life satisfaction scores than people with less than $5,000 saved, even controlling for total income and net worth. 42%. Because financial security, real, tangible financial security, changes how you experience everything in your life. You sleep better. You stress less about work because you're not terrified of losing your job. Your relationships improve because you're not fighting about money constantly. You feel like you have agency over your future instead of just reacting to whatever happens to you. All right, so here is what you need to do if you're not at $20,000 yet, but you want to get there. And I'm going to be really honest with you, this is not going to be some magic trick or some secret hack. It's going to be the same advice you've heard before, but now you understand why it matters. First, you need to know your number. Calculate exactly how much you need to save each month to hit $20,000 in a realistic time frame. If you're starting from zero and you can save $500 a month, you're looking at about 3.5 years accounting for interest. If you're starting from $10,000 and you can save $500 a month, you're looking at about 19 months. Write that date down. Put it somewhere you can see it every single day. Second, you need to automate everything. Set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your savings account the day after you get paid. Not when you remember, not when you feel like it, automatically. Because here's the thing about willpower, it runs out. Discipline is great, but systems are better. Third, and this is where most people mess up, you need to increase your income. I know everyone wants to focus on cutting expenses and budgeting and eating rice and beans. And look, if you've got a bunch of wasteful spending, cut it. But there's a limit to how much you can cut. You can only reduce your expenses to zero, but there is no limit to how much you can earn. So whatever you do for work, figure out how to get better at it and get paid more for it. If you're working a regular job, focus on getting a raise or promotion. If that's not possible at your current company, start looking at other opportunities. If you have time outside of work, find a way to make extra money. Not forever, just until you hit $20,000. Fourth, protect your savings like it's the most important thing in your life, because right now it is. Do not touch it for anything except genuine emergencies. Your friend's wedding is not an emergency. A good deal on a TV is not an emergency. Wanting to go on vacation is not an emergency. An emergency is something that threatens your health, safety, or ability to earn income. That is it. All right, I'm going to be real with you for a second. Getting to $20,000 is hard. It's going to take years. There are going to be months where you feel like you're not making any progress. There are going to be moments where you want to give up because it feels pointless. But here's what I need you to understand. $20,000 is not the end goal. It's not like you hit $20,000 and suddenly you're rich and you never have to worry about money again. That's not how this works. But it is the inflection point. It's the moment where the game fundamentally changes, where your money starts working for you instead of you just working for money, where opportunities become accessible that were invisible before, where you go from feeling like you're drowning to feeling like you're actually building something real. Every single person I know who has built serious wealth, and I mean real wealth, not lottery winner stuff, but actual earned wealth, they all talk about that moment when they crossed some threshold and everything felt different. For some people, it's $50,000. For some people, it's $100,000. But for most people, it's $20,000. That's where it starts to feel real. So if you're not there yet, keep going. Protect your savings, increase your income, stay focused. Because on the other side of $20,000 is a version of your financial life that you probably can't even imagine right now. And I promise you, it is worth every sacrifice you're making to get there. If this video helped you see your savings differently, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you are on your journey to $20,000. I read every single comment and I'm rooting for you. Now go take action.